made for hands by hands.
Samsø is a small island off the eastern coast of Jutland. Its beautiful natural landscape and historic villages attract thousands of tourists during the summer months. However, only 3,700 people live there all year round, staying when the island's many holiday homes lie empty for the winter. One of Samsø's permanent residents is Sigrid Hovmand, a potter who lives in Nordby on the north of the island. Sigrid grew up on Samsø from the age of 8, and when she finished her education, she decided to move back here to live and work permanently.
I grew up here. Somehow I always wanted to have a studio here. 1979 I started. Bought the house in January 79, and then built the studio from then on, the spring and the summer. It's a good base, it's a good place to work. For what I'm doing, I think this is a fantastic spot. This bowl is from an exhibition in Belgium in 2019. And I had a theme for my own theme called Leaves from My Village. And in this particular case, I went around the whole village and found the right leaf for this particular bowl. The good thing about saying yes to an exhibition, beside being flattered that somebody wants your work, is that it gives you a reason for spending time doing special things. I like my work and patterns and things I do to have something to do with my life and where I live. That's why I chose leaves you can find outside your house. When you this feeling of center, of getting it right in the middle, of centering is very essential when you work on a wheel. When you work on a wheel, your hands has to be still, and the wheel does the work. I worked with clay since I was 18, so that is 48 years. When I start and open up, I have to decide if I want an open shape or cylinder. In this case, I did a cylinder which I can then shape on. And I always do this. I always cut the bottom. It's like playing an instrument. I often compare doing throwing, doing pottery. My trade is throwing on the wheel, and I often compare it with learning to play the violin. What you have to do, especially with stoneware, when you take it off, you have to be careful that it's still round, because the clay has plastic memory. It has to be in your body. You train, and you have to sit for hours. You have to sit for years at the wheel to be really good. And it's like it's a way of thinking. You think with your hands. Only I can make my work. I mean, a bowl is a bowl, but if you want a mug or a bowl, you can only get it here, and it's only me making this version of a mug,
Like Sigrid, Ola F. Olsen has chosen to live and work on Samsø for the majority of his life.
I'm just a painter. For me, it is the medium is the flat canvas and a brush. This is painting, and you have to make up your mind when you are starting. It's not an illusion. It is a brush and color. It is the beginning.
Ola grew up in a hotel in Brøndby, Samsø, which was run by his father.
many difficult people visit. Artists, painters, and I, of course, use my eyes and listen. So this was a good way. For many years, I meet this man, this German writer, Günter Grass, very famous, and he had a holiday on Samsø, and I met him. Then I start to make this painting, and I never do it before. Faces or so. Yeah, for me it was, can I do this and this? I do it.
Several visitors here and look at the art.
And then you have to explain, why are you a painter? Why?
For Sigrid, her creative process is inspired by those around her.
Yeah, I have a grandchild who lost his milk teeth last year here, and we made a little jar together to put his teeth in. That was fun.
As well as her family, Sigrid finds inspiration in many places.
And then, for instance, you have different needs in your own kitchen, and that can sometimes start a new model or a new product. When I think back, what I've been doing is that I often have made something that I like to do myself, or I need it in kitchen, and if it's sold, I just made more of it. And if it's too time consuming, or it didn't work out anymore, I'll just stop making it. I never compromised. I always made something that I liked myself. You know, the cooking pot, for the oven. It's not for cooking. It's these oven dish. I developed together with my neighbor at that time, who had a restaurant next door. And because he's a chef and he thinks different than Amy, he thinks cooking and food. I've never think about, and I think something different. It was a good collaboration, a good things to work on together. I've also been thinking, what I make, my trade is to make pots on the wheel, which means I've often been thinking about pots is in a human scale. Pot fits to people and in normal homes. If I'm doing exhibition, I like to bake big pieces just because for showing, and it can be often is bigger rooms. But pots in this size fits into people's home. They are in human scale, and maybe that's why they're so appealing. I'm not a sculptor. I'm not a designer. Of course, I design my own things, but I'm a potter, and I work with pots. And it's important for me to produce my own work. I get the idea and I follow it all the way through the whole process. I assume if you are a designer, you get an idea and then you choose the material fitting to that idea. I work in clay, and my trade is making pots on the wheel. Feel comfortable using it. And it's in human scale.
From summer to winter, the island experiences many changes, from the levels of tourists to the hours of daylight.
The darkness, yeah. It's some long evenings. It is very dark in Northern Europe. So, we're very dependent on light, I think.
People ask, oh, how can you be on an island? This is a normal question from outsider and so on. But in the today world, you are not separated anywhere.
I don't know when, but within the last years, the whole thing about the internet, being on the web, being able to present your work, has changed so much. And having a website where I can see now that within the last 2 years, people are checking my work out before they come.
In summertime, there's too many people. and you have to look at them. In big city, people don't look into your eyes, but in this small island, we do. When we pass each other in a small city, we look in your eyes and say so, and then go on. But in cities, you can't do it.
The contrast, but quiet in the winter and hectic in the summer, is a good contrast. Early summer is just beautiful, and then of course you get tired after a while, and then the advantage of the winter is the quietness, and that you can go as not, you don't have to be as busy. So you get this exchange between summer and winter that I like. The dynamic between the hectic summer and the more quiet winter.
In a way, it's much better. In the winter, you have another time. Not a lot of people, not a lot of tourists. You have concentration for working and for what is life, what is it all. So the winter is, for me, good. People from outside say you're going crazy in the winter in Samsø. No, it's much better.
When the spring comes and the light return, that is really joyful. And you follow the seasons more here. And I think it's okay to hibernate a little bit. You know, I don't think we're meant to be equally busy summer and winter. When the winter is over, we're looking forward to see all the people and tourists again. When in the end of the summer, we can't wait to get peace and quiet again. Samsø is where I live and work, and it's also where I grew up. And I always wanted to come back here and start a studio. It's also where my children were born, and for me, for now, this is the perfect place to be.
It's important to be Samsø. If I live in Copenhagen, you look totally different. So Samsø is important for me to stay here and to work on. This is the main situation.
I'm sure that if I had a studio in a big city, I'm sure my work would be different somehow.
Living as a painter on an island is also the important for me is the light, lyset. I tell you, I have this feeling of the sea, the skies, and a long horizon, and I miss it.
I lived in Warsaw, Poland once, and I miss the ocean. I also lived in Chicago, and I hardly couldn't breathe because the ocean was so far away. And being on an island here, where it's so quiet, and you have wonderful, beautiful walks right outside your door. It's something I really appreciate. And then also, this is my home. It's a good base. It's a good place to work. For what I'm doing, I think this is a fantastic spot. It's not for everybody. I mean, a lot of people get discouraged when it's dark outside. And when it's January here, it gets really dark. It's not for everybody to live here. And the winter ends, you know. Spring comes back every year.